I'm concerned about your leadership, specifically in our no fraternization policy. Okay. And your role as an example with Holly. Do you have any insight as to Holly's activities at
All right, you guys can go ahead and ask questions with TJ, and we'll get started.
Hey TJ, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Um, I'll ask about the big coaching news with Deonte Garrett coming in and getting hired. When was the first time? I guess, do you remember the first time you guys met, and did you see back then what transpired now?
Yeah, so Deonte's older brother Damon and I were the same age in high school and played against each other growing up, and then both ended up finishing playing at Whitewater, and so knew the family very well, knew his brother Damon well, knew his dad Dick because he was an NBA player and he always worked at the Bucks games as an usher. You'd always see him. He was like the friendly, nice guy. So known their family a long time. Don't recall when I first met Deonte, but I know that we started recruiting him right at the beginning of his sophomore year of high school at Milwaukee Vincent. Felt like he was just a very unique talent with the basketball at his size. And so started building a relationship with him at that point. And obviously, leading into his senior year, he had decided he wanted to be a Cyclone. And so we've had a close relationship, spent a lot of hours in the gym together over his 4 years here, and followed, and continued to stay in touch throughout his career. So when the opportunity presented itself, and we were essentially feeling like after Christmas, it could be a good time, to add him to our staff and what he's able to bring to the table in terms of his experiences as a Cyclone, as a professional, but then also as somebody who's terrific with player development and loves spending time with guys on the court. So just felt like it would be a huge asset to add him at this point and give us a little bit of boost of energy and enthusiasm in our program.
And whether it's the player development, like you mentioned, or just having been around the program in Iowa State for so long, where do you feel like his biggest strengths are as a coach?
Well, you look at, certainly he was an elite point guard, and we've got, some of those guys on our roster right now who can really stand to learn and benefit from him that way. I'd say over, the 19 years I've been in Division One, I'm not sure there's been a guy who loved to play basketball more than him. Deonte was a guy when he was here playing, we'd have to chase him out of Lead Rec Center or wherever there was a pickup game on campus because the guy couldn't get enough basketball, and he was just loves to play. You could see even as he's in our building here this morning, he's in the gym early, getting shots up and getting work in. He loves to play. So I think seeing that spirit, seeing that passion, enthusiasm for the game is certainly contagious. And I think he could be a great mentor for guys who are looking to take the path that he did in terms of playing professionally after. He could be a great source of advice as well.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Hi, TJ. Rob here. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Rob. How are you?
Excellent. I'm doing very, very well. Colorado, obviously, you were able to handle them in Maui, but they got the big win against UConn. I think they've won every game since that loss to you guys. What's the unique challenge of facing them now in conference play, especially in their place where you throw in a little bit of altitude and a bit of travel?
Yeah, they're undefeated at home. They've been a team that has consistently been really good on their home court. When you enter into league play, I think it becomes even more important when you go on the road that you're a team that focuses on getting stops and on the defensive end of the floor, because you hear all the time people will say, well, defense travels, and really what that means is people on their home court, when they're comfortable and able to do what they want to do, they're going to feel good, and things a lot of times go their way. And so, as much as this team that we have has been strong in certain areas, I think the area that we really need to be strong to be successful on Monday is going to be, defensively. Guard the basketball, pressure the basketball, try to generate turnovers and score off our defense like we were able to do last time. Win the rebounding battle like we were able to do last time. I think we were +6 on the glass. So I put a lot more stock in us getting stops, us getting turnovers, us doing those things. When you're on their side of the ledger, they've got a good team, and they have a team that plays very smart, doesn't do things to put themselves at deficit. They have a terrific coach. They're guys now that when we played them the first time hadn't had as much experience because their roster was so new from last year. And now those guys have had more and more opportunities to play together, to have successes together. So we've got to focus on the things we can do. We got to pressure the ball. We got to get after them. We got to generate live ball turnovers. We got to win. We got to score in transition. Got to win the rebounding battle. But it's more about the mindset of we're not going there to trade baskets. We're going there to get stops and to hang our hat on our defense, and then have that set the tone for what we do offensively.
One quick follow-up from me. You had mentioned how much respect you had for Morgan State's coach and what they did to kind of prevent live ball turnovers. And have you seen teams, given how that's been your strength for your whole time there, devising ways to try to limit those successfully? And does it make it more difficult to navigate and create those?
Well, I'm sure that, like you said, as you prepare for an opponent, and both Morgan State, they had a week, and Colorado certainly will have time to prepare. There's things you find, or whether it's concepts or ideas or things that you feel like can put us in more challenging positions. And for us, it comes down to when we dictate the basketball, which is really three things: sprint back and get our defense set, establish the pressure into the basketball so that the offensive player is not comfortable, and then being great in pick and roll coverage to not allow them to create advantages. And so I would assume that, being the coach that Coach Boyle is, and the personnel they have, that they'll have some new ways to try to do that. And ultimately, from our side, it's far more about, get back, get into the basketball, be disruptive, be effective and active in our pick and roll coverage, communicate early, so that doesn't hold to be true. Because I think, look, as the game wears on, most teams tend to still settle into what their habits are and who they are. And what we need to establish is that the defensive mindset, and what they're certainly, like you said, they're going to hope to establish that they can space us some more and skip the ball to the backside and try to get us in rotation. So if we guard the ball well and prevent advantage on the drive or in the pick and roll, then we don't get in rotation as much, and we're able to stay intact and not scrambling around.
Awesome. Thanks, TJ.
Thank you.
Morning, TJ.
Good morning.
Another question on Deonte. Is he a guy that you send out on the road recruiting just yet? Does he go up to Wisconsin with JR, or is he a guy that you're going to have maybe work exclusively with the guards or on the offense? Just kind of curious, a guy like that joining a program mid-season, kind of what you put on his plate right away.
Yeah, I think the most important thing in the area where he's going to impact winning for our program is going to be with the player development on the court. In terms of that includes like doing work with guys, getting shots and attacking off the dribble, where again, he certainly is a wealth of knowledge, as a resource as well. It's a guy that at times can get out there and competitively like go against our guys, or be a player on the opposing team as we prepare, having the ability to do that. Right now I see his responsibilities primarily lying in being highly invested in our student athletes and highly invested in our process here on a day-to-day basis. So right now, I think as important as recruiting always is, in our program at this point in the year, we prioritize our team and what we need to do to get better on a daily basis and have a great practice. And Deonte will certainly, lean into being a huge asset for us to do that. And so, as far as any of the recruiting moving forward, truthfully, I hadn't really thought that far ahead. I'm confident in the staff that we have in place to do that. It's not to say that down the road Deonte may not be valuable and an asset in that manner, but our focus with him right now is solely on our team, getting our players better, getting them ready to play in the games, and really getting them to perform at their highest level.
Hey, TJ. I'm curious. We've talked for a long time about one of the things that made the Big 12 as difficult as it historically has been the familiarity, whether it's the coaching continuity and certainly the round robin schedule. With both of those things kind of changing now, how do you think that'll maybe impact the way people navigate or think about the league, or even just what the last 3 weeks of the season look like, when historically that's been the biggest grind, I feel like, for teams?
Yeah, well, I think the familiarity is certainly going to be challenged, right? Because when we first came in and there's 10 teams and a true round robin, that's a different animal. And I think everybody knows each other so well because there are fewer teams and you play everybody twice. Now that certainly isn't always the case, although in this game against Colorado, certainly we could end up playing them who knows how many times this year, for sure 3, and could go beyond that. So there'll be someone that we are continuing to be very familiar with. What I think, to answer your question, will be is, again, I'm not like, don't look too far ahead or how this impacts that. My brain kind of just works on like, let's focus on what we can today. But in trying to answer your question the best I can, I'd say, there's going to be, it's going to be different, right? It's going to be different when you have more teams. And then there's a team maybe you hadn't played and you play them for the first time in mid to late February for one reason or another. Or, the imbalance in the schedule, what that can create. And I hadn't really looked at it, and who knows who the best teams are going to be at this point or how things will go and who will stay healthy. But I think all those things become factors and variables that you have to plan for. And I think that's where now more than ever, I think when you look at your non-conference schedule, because there's more unpredictability in the league, you've got to make sure you schedule the right way for your team in non-league, so that regardless of how that shakes out, you feel like you're in a good position. So I guess until it actually plays itself out, it's hard to say. I know that, there's the bracketology and all these things that try to guess in November who's going to be in the NCAA tournament, which I don't know how you can possibly do that. But I'd say I know this, the top of our league is really strong, and we'll see how that holds true for the teams, beyond that, because I think it's still, we have so many great home court advantages. It's really hard to win on the road. And I think with the teams we've added, they have track record. When you look at Utah, Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, those are teams that have had tremendous home records. So winning on the road is still going to be a big challenge. And we'll see how all those factors play into as league play unfolds, specifically in those last few weeks.
Does it change at all how you guys handle your scouts, or even what you present to guys as game plans, when, like you mentioned, like you could be giving guys their first dose of a team in mid-February rather than their second time around, when I'm imagining it's more reminding guys of a game plan than implementing totally something new?
Yeah, and we, again, I don't, we won't change our process, to be honest. How we look at things is as much as we respect the coaches, the players, and the programs, like 90% of it for us is about being who we are and doing what we do. And that's how we've done things in past years. And that won't change this year, because I think our number one job is to get our guys playing better and playing more unified, connected, harder, all those things. And that's within the realm of what we control. When it comes down to game plan, yeah, there's a team that maybe they're, great in pick and roll coverage and we want to address that, or maybe they're a great rebounding team and we need to emphasize that. But really, I mean, we're so convicted to like what our habits are and our habits showing up for us, that whether we have seen the team before or not, whether we're, have 1 day to prepare, no days to prepare, 2 days to prepare. Our constant messaging to our guys is pressure the ball, rebound the ball, share the ball. And when we're doing those things at a high level, and that's what we practice every day to try to do those at a high level, we're going to feel good about the way things go on the night of the game. And so that's really what we focus on each and every day. I know it sounds mundane and not overly sophisticated, but that's really where we place our attention and our effort.
Thank you, TJ.
Thank
Good
you.
morning, Coach. Hope you're doing well. Wanted to go back to the hiring of Coach Garrett. Obviously, for about the last month, you guys were, I guess, an assistant staff member short. How, if at all, did that affect the day-to-day process that you and your program use?
Yeah, I think we build our program in such a way that regardless of what happens, you have an injury, you have somebody out, this happens, that happens, coaches, gone recruiting, whatever it is, we plan ahead of time to put ourselves in position that, we're not impacted by things like that. And we continue to move forward, and everybody has to do more and step up. And so, certainly evaluated if it was better for our program to add or not. And when Deonte had settled in his mind on his professional career, him being content with where his career was at and having that be over, he became clearly the guy. And had it not been him, I can't speak to. It wasn't like we were in position where we felt like we needed to be desperate or we have to do this or have to do that. I feel like everything was being addressed and executed upon, and our players were being tended to and invested in. It just felt like when Deonte was available for us to bring in and knew that was an option, that it was such a great option, and with his character and what this program means to him, that there really wasn't a lot of thought to it on my end. At that point, it became a no-brainer that he could bring tremendous benefit. And, when you bring your guys back from the Christmas break, there's a newness to how you do everything when you return. Everybody's refreshed. So timing-wise, it came together and made a lot of sense as well.
Back to the game on Monday night. Obviously, coming back from Christmas, I'm sure you're excited to get the team together, but going on the road to an environment with altitude is a unique challenge in of itself. How do you prepare for that? Do you put oxygen mask on the guys in practice? Are you bringing like the oxygen tubes or whatever to allow guys to use on the bench, or is it just same kind of routine and you're hoping that the players are in good enough shape to kind of handle those kind of challenges?
Yeah, I think over time, where we build our mindset is there's variables. There's some that are controllable, uncontrollable. My experience has been in coaching in the Mountain West, where there's many games in altitude, and I've coached at Colorado, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. I don't even know how many. I tend to think that it's a lot more talk than it is actually a factor. To me, at most, what I've seen from guys I've coached or what they've said is, hey, there's a little more, wind. You're a little more winded on your first run out there, and then everything settles in and is normal. Again, for fault or for strength or weakness, I don't know, but I tend to think almost everything in life is mental, and you decide mentally what things are going to impact you and not. And the more focus you have on the task at hand, the less external distractors seem to get in the way. The players I've coached who have been the most focused and the most, locked into winning haven't seemed to have an issue with it. And so it's going to be important for our guys to understand that, you control what you can control. We condition in the way that we do. We play a fast tempo. We play a disruptive defense, so a style of basketball that requires a lot of effort. As a coach, will I be more mindful on the first substitution? Maybe. But ultimately, it comes down to keeping your focus where your focus needs to be. And I'm sure there'll be signs in the building and questions our guys are asked and things that are said. But I think when you're mentally tough, there's a lot of factors that play into it. And, You know, there's a lot of things you can't control. And so it comes down, you know, we condition the way that we do. Our guys are in great shape. So it really just comes down to keeping focus and not allowing something like that to distract you. Because I haven't ever experienced it being a factor in all the times I played there or in other places that have altitude either.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yep. Any more brain busters? Here comes Workman. That means we're off. See you
No
guys.
more
Thanks,
brain
everyone.
busters.
Thank you, guys.
See you
Take
guys.
care.